You're listening to the Uptown Girls Podcast. I'm your host, Martina Barley. Let's talk. Welcome, everyone. We have the best guests ever. This is so exciting. First, let's reintroduce Carla, because it's been a while since Carla's been on.
Hi, everybody. Carla, VP Uptown Marketing, also Martina's older, wiser sister.
And Angelina, who are you?
I'm the operations manager, the sister they never wanted.
And who are you?
Scott Tartaglia. I guess I'm their old boss. Worked together for many, many years. So excited and honored to be here today.
Yeah. So I often refer to myself as the Michael Jordan of sales.
Okay.
So that would make you Phil Jackson.
Yeah, Phil Jackson.
Yeah. So this is the Phil Jackson here with us today. But Scott was my boss for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
Carla's boss, how long?
3.
About 3.
3 years, yeah.
About 3 years.
And how long?
I think 3 years too.
Yeah, about 3, 4.
Except at the end, we were more so partners.
Yeah, that's what she said.
Whatever makes her feel better.
I would say the same thing, though, actually.
Yeah,
by the end, we were partners.
Well, I would say that about all 3 of you ladies, truthfully.
Well, no, we started as partners and then I demoted myself.
Yeah.
Really.
Because she's so good at sales.
Thank you. So I first met Scott when I was interviewing for a job. Well, okay, so I went into the job and I applied for like a social media position.
Yep.
And I remember interviewing with Lana and she was like, I don't think this is really for you. Do you want to go over to the sales team? And I was like, sure. Like I never really thought about working in sales. And then I went to the sales room and I was like, whoa, what is going on here?
That was a fun room.
It was a fun room. I remember people were like literally throwing footballs, like smoking basically in the room.
Not quite, but
and I was like,
maybe.
Wow. And I met Scott and he was like, first of all, running around the room, like screaming, motivating everybody, I should say, not screaming at people, but like getting people screaming, getting people really pumped up. And we sat down and he was like, I need an assistant. And I was like, yeah, I think you do. Look around. Like you definitely need one.
Yeah.
And that was a Friday and I started the next Monday.
Yeah.
And then we always used to like have this disagreement because you were the sales manager. Yeah. I was your assistant. In my mind, I was the assistant sales manager, but I wasn't at first. I was the sales manager's assistant.
Yes.
But then I became the assistant sales manager, thanks to you.
Yes.
And then went into sales, that whole thing. And then Carla took over where I left off as the assistant sales manager.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And, she earned that title. It wasn't because of me.
Oh,
you did.
Thank you.
At the end of the day, you brought something to that room that I couldn't bring, right? So you were there to help the people, right? Mm-hmm. And I saw that, and that's really where you got that opportunity to become the assistant sales manager.
Yeah. So. That was really special. I remember I was like, finally, we're not going to argue about my title anymore. I made myself.
I think she was pretty happy with the business cards, if I remember correctly.
I loved having a business card. I just felt like legit, So tell us, like, from the beginning, how you got into sales.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was basically running a store at 18 years old at Spencer Gifts. And I didn't quite realize that I was kind of doing sales, but I didn't really understand that. I decided that, actually, quick story, I was making $40,000 a year at 18. My district manager that ran all the stores came to meet me. And he had been there 25 years. And I asked him what he made at lunch. And he said $60,000. I put in my 2-week notice that next day. And I immediately knew that was not going to be my future. And then I found a sales job. I was actually making $8.50 an hour. Okay, back when minimum wage was $5.25. And I got paid $1 per sale. Like, that's not a joke. And I'd get 50 cents extra if I could get the Social Security number. So I'd actually call people to get them to refinance, get their Social Security numbers, date of birth over the phone. And I was doing about 30 sales in about 4 hours. So I realized, okay, I think I found what I like and I enjoy. And that was the beginning of me now 22 years in sales.
Wow. You don't seem old enough for that, but.
Yeah.
Okay, so then we're gonna have to think of a name to call our old company because I don't like to
Specific.
use specific. So let's just
The media company.
the media company. Okay. So how did you end up at the media company and what was your first position there?
Yeah, so I actually was working at another company, just basically selling credit cards. Okay, and I was probably making about $50,000 a year. And one of my great mentors, Art Ellis, said, "Hey, there's this job that you got to check out." It was a $1,200 a month base, which was technically illegal at that point, right? Like it was literally less than minimum wage. But they gave me 15% commission off of everything that I wrote. So I went in for the interview, got the job. First day, I wrote a sale for $1,000, paid in full, and I made $150. And I said, so I can write as many of these as I want, and there's no like cap or anything. And that's when I knew. And my first year there, I made about 77,000. My second year, I was close to 90, and then my third year, I hit six figures. So. But really, it was kind of a gradual progression, and I was really good at prospecting. So I could just pick up the phone, make 400 dials in 6-7 hours so I could get enough appointments, even though I didn't know how to close yet. I really had no clue what I was doing. It was all just winging it, just trying to figure it out. But because I got so many reps, I got really good really quick.
I feel like he's going to get a lot of job offers after this podcast goes out.
I think so too. Do you ever miss like the prospecting days?
I still do it once in a while.
Do you?
Right. So at my job where I'm at now, which I won't bring up that company either, I still close deals. I'm still the number one sales guy, even though I'm the vice president. I do it for about half of the day, but I like to keep myself sharp. So I close about 50 to 60% of the deals that I present to. So I truly believe the speed of the leader is the speed of the team. So if you're going to be a leader of a team, you better be able to get into the trenches and be able to do what you're trying to teach them to do. So even with 22 years experience, I still do it. I enjoy it. It's actually much funner than being the VP.
Yeah, I could easily imagine that. I think like the biggest thing that I struggle with is going from being in sales and being the best salesperson there to now having to just like
Teach people. Yes.
Yeah. And you may remember my patience with teaching people.
Yeah, it was none.
None.
Zero.
None patience.
So it's part of why she actually went from the assistant sales manager, right, to a sales rep, because ultimately she's like, this is not as hard as they're making it seem. So, and then you excelled. Right away, you started making a lot of money.
Yeah.
As tough as it was, I knew it was the right decision for the company, and I knew it was the right decision for you to kind of let you go and grow on your own.
Yeah.
And look where you are now.
Okay. So you were a rep there for a while. When did you and how did you get into leadership there?
Yeah. So it was about 4 years, and I was, top sales rep there. One of my mentors, Larry DeCarlis, decided to part ways, or there was a mutual parting of ways. I always wanted to be a leader because I had run my own store, and I didn't want to just sit and grind all day, every day for the rest of my life. So I saw it as an opportunity. They decided to give the position to somebody else that was very much not qualified for that position. So I walked in and gave my 2-week notice. And at that point, they go, the CEO, one of my greatest mentors, wants to meet with you. So I went and met with him, and he said, I'm going to give you an opportunity with this young lady, and we're going to see who excels. About 2 weeks later, we were running a meeting, and that's really what I do probably best is public speaking. I got in front of the room, and after that meeting, he pulled me aside and said, you're my leader, you're my guy. And at that point, that's really where I took over the sales room. We had about 12 to 13 sales reps. At our peak, we got it up to about 65. And I think we had like 10 in Austin, Texas. So we had close to 80 sales reps we were able to, build it up to.
How many lead gen and how many closers at that time? At
that point, it was probably 1-to-1 close. Yeah. I think at our peak, we had 23 closers. I remember our big whiteboard.
20s,
you remember that?
Oh,
it was like 23 closers. And I think with all the trainees, we probably had about 30 to 40 lead gen prospectors that would feed the closers. Then we came up with what was called a pod. So we would have 4 people, 2 lead gen people and 2 closers working together. So that way they could really have that continuity, work together. And that's really where we took our numbers to another level.
Yeah, I remember that. I think it was always a lot easier to like close a new prospect if the same person was getting it over to me because we just knew each other's style. She knew how I wanted it like qualified in the beginning. So that 1-to-1, I love that.
I call it setting the table, right? Certain people want their table set a certain way. So as a closer, there's certain things you want done. And if you have that synergy with the person that you're working with, they know how to set your table, which is going to increase your overall closing rate.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. Okay, so when you went into leadership, was it harder than you thought it was going to be, and how?
Actually, surprisingly, it was really easy. Like, it really was. The hardest part was dealing with people that I felt like sometimes when I talked to them, my IQ dropped a little bit.
Yeah.
Right. So, and when I say that, I don't mean to be disrespectful, but there's people that just don't connect the dots very well. So you have to draw the line out for them. That was always tough for me. But outside of that, I really excelled with building people. I got a lot of enjoyment out of taking somebody that was like a C+B player and being this much into helping them become a B+A player.
Okay, so how do you do that? Start with a lead gen, and then let's talk about how you train a closer.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say no matter the position, it starts with three things. It's number one is attitude. You have to have somebody that has that go-getter, positive attitude that can deal with the waves, because you're always going to deal with those, right? Like no matter how good you get at closing, nobody ever closes 100%. When you get good at prospecting, nobody's going to get 100%. So you have to be able to deal with the ups and downs. So I would say attitude is first. I focused a lot on mindset and teaching people to be strong and not allow failures or them maybe not getting the result they want to disrupt the ultimate goal, right? So attitude. Second one is activities, right? You got to teach people, they got to be able to pick up the phone, right? So as a prospector, the most important thing is every no gets you closer to a yes, right? We used to say that all the time. So as you keep getting no's, you got to understand sometimes it takes 6 no's to get to your yes. Sometimes it takes 8 no's to get to your yes. And as you get better, it will become less no's to find the yes, right? So I'd say attitude, activities, and then the skill. So the skill part is where you really have to focus. Tone. How do they sound, right? Your voice is the biggest weapon that you have on the phone or in person, right? Now you have body language and, you know, all that good stuff. But at the end of the day, if you don't sound good, you're probably not going to be good at sales. So you have to learn how to speak to people in the right tone. You can't talk too fast. You can't talk too slow, right? Pace is very important. So what I always teach people with pace is it's kind of like driving a stick shift. You can't stay in one gear too long. So you have to slow down, speed up sometimes, because you have to keep the attention of the audience, which is your client, right? So tone, pace, and then I like to call it hesitation. You can't come across so scripted, even though you've said it 10,000 times. I'd be like, it's like, I already know what I'm going to say, but I'd make them think I'm coming up with it on the spot, and I'd come up with some amazing way to say it. So tone, pace, hesitation, and then you have to modulate, right? You have to be able to go up and down. People only hear, if you read books on this, I've read a couple books on it, 1 out of every 3 words that comes out of your mouth actually register in somebody's brain. So think about it. I just said 15 words. How many of those stuck out to everybody? So you have to emphasize key words that you want people to be able to hear and emotionally get that person to start going a little closer. They keep getting a little closer to you because all of a sudden they're starting to go, okay, they have something that can really help me. So I like to focus on how they sound, right, when it comes to prospecting. And as long as they have a good attitude and they have good activities, you can teach the skill. You just have to be patient, Martina. And you also have to be able to show them. So I was taught years ago, I'm going to watch you do it twice. Then you're going to watch me do it twice and then go away and let me do my job. Right. And if you get people that have that type of ability, they'll grow on their own. Right. And then you're just there to help assist, but you can't drag somebody to the top of the mountain. They got to want to get to the top of the mountain, too. So you're there to help them, but you can't do it for them.
I don't even know what to say. It's all so good. It's all so good. And it really works. I mean, we watched it work for years and years. I think it's interesting what you said about like the tone and the speed and your voice itself, because I remember when I was managing with you and we had all the different markets. So we're obviously in New York, but we were calling in Roanoke, Virginia. Roanoke, Virginia. We were calling in the Mid-Hudson Valley of New York. Yeah. So we would literally take people and separate them based on their tone, their speed, how they were as people, you know, and say, all right, you guys are calling Virginia, you guys are calling New York, because the different personalities.
Well, and I've always believed in that. And then I think it's important too to challenge people. So, okay, so you're a slower talker. Okay, you're down south. But guess what? I'm going to put you up in the Northeast too, because you're going to need to learn how to do that. Because there's a lot of New Yorkers down south. Right? So you better be able to adjust. So the biggest thing to me to being a great salesperson, not a good salesperson, is you have to master being a chameleon. You have to be able to figure out who you're talking to and adjust on the fly in seconds to be able to match that person, right? And you asked about closing. To me, that's the most important thing with closing, because if people don't jive with you, they're not going to buy, even if they need the product, right? And I always say this too. They only care about how much you know once they know how much you care. So you got to really come in as a consultant and not just that old school sales guy that's just going to hard close everybody. That just doesn't work, especially in 2025.
Yeah. What do you think are training practices that stick versus training practices that don't work?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the first thing you got to know is everybody learns differently, right? So some people learn by watching. Some people learn by doing, right? Some people you have to practice, role play with them. I was never that dude. Like, get away from me. Like, I want nothing to do with like you telling role playing. Let me watch you and then let me go do my job. But some people you have to role play with them. They have to watch videos. They have to listen to themselves. I do always go back to that one. As painful it is to listen to yourself. If I get in any slump at all, like even I go 0 for 3. Immediately I'm pulling a call or two and I'm listening to myself on that call to see what could I have done better? What did I do well? And then making adjustments from there.
Yeah, oh my gosh, we used to pull their calls and go into a conference room and listen to their calls. And it was like, you get like secondhand embarrassment listening to a bad salesperson on a call. I'd be like,
It's actually very difficult. It's one of the hardest things I had to teach myself as a leader was sit there and listen, because I'm like, this is horrible, right? And I just want to be done. And I'm like, but that doesn't help them, right? So then I always like to break it up like this. So prospecting, you have your intro, you have qualification, and then you have your pitch, right? So your intro is, you have to be able to break the ice. You can't just go in and say, hey, Martina, I got something to sell you. I want to sell you today. You have to be able to go in and build some rapport in the beginning, ask some questions, not just pitch them, right? And get to know their business and see if you can truly help them. And if you have that type of mentality when you're on the phone, it will come across that way. And people will give you that extra 3 to 5 seconds to talk, which is really the difference between getting a chance to get the pitch out and getting hung up on in the first 7 seconds.
How do you teach people to manage the ups and downs as a lead gen, appointment setter, whatever it is? Because that is truly, I never did that as a job. I did it here and there to kind of help, but that is the most brutal job ever. And it almost is even harder if you are a really good salesperson, because you naturally want to, remember we would have the people that were really good at it, or like the people that were good at appointment setting and we wanted to move them into closing. Once they knew they were good enough to go that direction, they want to do it on their call.
Yep. Well, they couldn't prospect anymore. Right? That's what would happen, right? As soon as they learned how to close, they're like, oh my God, I forgot everything that I learned about prospecting. And it's all in their mind, right? It's because, oh, I'm too good for that now. So you have to remember, you can't present people if you can't prospect, right? And so how did I manage it? First and foremost is make sure your prospectors know that you know how difficult their job is, right? You have to be supportive of them. You can't just like constantly be pounding them, because they do have probably the toughest job in the entire company, right? They get more rejection than anybody else in the company. So it's really the mindset that you have to train. And I always say like this, the smooth sales do not make a skilled sailor. You only become good at something when you deal with the adversity. So if you don't have adversity, how do you get better at something? right? So I always just try to remind them that you're building for your future. And most of the great, how would I say it, techniques and strategies that you need as a prospector also translate to a closer. So I always make sure they know there is a light at the end of the tunnel. If you can be really good at this, you're going to get an opportunity to go to this.
If we had back in the day 20 people we hired on as lead generation, how many of them would make it to closers? How many of them would kind of settle in as a permanent lead gen? And how many were depressed and left the company?
Well, when I had Martina and Carla, we had more people that would stay because they were tough about, it's all about the interviewing, right? So you really have to know what type of personality you want. So if you're just going into an interview like, oh, I really like them. Well, so what, right? Like, can they do that job? So I think it starts with the recruiting, right? You have to be able to recruit people and you have to be transparent with them. You're going to be making 150, 200 calls a day. And if they're scared of that, it doesn't matter how much you like them.
You're qualifying them.
Yes, you have. At the end of the day, I always say this. If you're trying to sell the job to them, you're already in big trouble, right? They need to sell themselves to you and make you feel like, okay, you know what? You can throw them into the fire pit and they can handle it.
Yeah. There was so many people that I feel like you just are like, wow, this person, even now, I feel like sometimes like this person's going to be so great. And then they come in and you're like, is this the same person that I met a month ago?
Yeah. It happens all the time.
All the time. Okay. So I think another thing that's very, very, very hard to me, and I still really, truly haven't mastered, how do you motivate a sales team aside from commissions? Because there's so many people, myself being one of them. I don't remember you ever being like, Martina, look how much money you made. Because that doesn't motivate me.
Yeah.
It never did.
No.
So how do you, figure out what motivates your best salespeople and how to do it as a group at the same time, if that makes sense?
So you have to remember everybody's their own individual. So I've learned there's 3 things that motivate salespeople: money, free time, and recognition. And you have to figure out which one of those 3. So for you, it was recognition, right? You wanted to be recognized as the top person, right? So that's why I always made sure to like, hey, look at how great, right? What did we used to call you? Not
$1 million baby.
Yeah, $1 million baby, right? She was my shining star, right? Like there was always little ways.
Sarah all the time now, and that's where it came from.
Yes, right? So you have to figure that out, right? What is their motivation? And then you have to be able to speak to that. So I think that's most important. You can't cattle call your sales team and think you're going to treat them all the same. Some people, if I rip into them, that immediately gets them to refocus, where other people might start crying and never come back again, right? So you have to be able to figure out how to speak to them and what motivates them. Yeah.
What do you think is some of the biggest challenges you see new reps face, especially I think 2025? I mean, we worked together long before COVID, but I think COVID changed everything. People have less patience. They don't trust people. So I would assume a new rep starting today in sales is going to struggle a lot more than somebody 10 years ago. So what do you see new reps facing and how do you manage it?
Yeah. So and you nailed it with COVID. It changed the work ethic. The work ethic has changed. People just want the magical pill, right? They want the silver bullet. I'm going to work from home and be a millionaire, right? Because they saw some TikToker do it, right? So you have to find somebody that's willing to say, you know what? I got to put in the work. I have to be willing to grind. So again, it goes back to the recruiting there. But so I think it starts there, but then it's also being a leader that they know you're not going to just tell them what to do. You got to be the lead wolf. You got to say, hey, I'm not going to have you go through the deep track so it's nice and easy for me. If there's deep snow, you go through the deep snow and say, follow, right? And come with me. And people will start to say, you know what? Okay, if he can do it, I can do it. Right. And that was always my thing. If I saw somebody else could do it, I don't think anybody's better than me. So in my mind, if they can do it, then I know I can do it. So it still comes back to finding the right person and then also having a process, I would say, is another thing. You can't nowadays just say, go hit the phone. Here's a script. You have to have a process in place to say, okay, so I call it, we use a 20-day game plan. So somebody comes in, they have a 20-day game plan of what they're going to be going through. They know exactly what those first 20 days are going to look like. And it allows them to focus on what they're doing and not worrying about, well, what's going to come next. They already know what's going to come next, right? Mm-hmm. So I don't know if that answered your question exactly, right?
It does. Because, yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head with everyone, I'm going to work from home and be a millionaire. And there's so few and far between now people that have the work ethic to, like, work.
Come into the office and work.
Yeah.
Well, you know this, Angie, even working with the clients, right? People don't pick up the phone the way they used to either. So tools, texting, social media reach out. It's not the old days of, hey, let me make 300 phone calls. It's a 6 to 12% pickup rate, even with the dialer. So you have to be able to text. You have to be able to hit people with social media. You have to use a multi-channel marketing approach to actually attract clients. You can't just rely on the old school days of pounding the phone.
Let's talk about that, because another thing I feel like is there's now email fatigue, because we're calling, nobody's picking up anymore. All right, let's start emailing. Yep. When I was prospecting, email was like amazing. If I sent out 10 emails, I got 3-4 responses.
Yes.
That is not the case anymore. You can send 1,000 and get 3 to 4 responses.
Oh, yeah.
So what is like kind of a good mix that you have now? Because you also can't do away with email completely.
Yeah, so I agree. So first, you'll get blacklisted if you do too many emails nowadays, right? So you have to be smart. So I always like to say never more than 100 a day, right? And they should be automated, right? So you should have a system in place that you can click a button and say, I want to email these 100 people. Then what you do is you text those 100 people and then you call them. So now they've gotten a text from you, they've gotten an email from you, and now you're calling behind it. And then you use tools like I know you ladies do, retarget people on social media.
Yeah.
You have to have brand awareness, right? So if you're just like, I'm going to cold call. Well, even me, as good as I am at that, I'm only going to talk to so many people. And most people are not going to give you the time of day if they haven't heard of you and they don't know who you are at all. So I like to call it smart dialing, right? I'm going to make smart dials, not just a bunch of cold calls. So, they watched my video. Okay, great. I'm going to reach out and call them. I also run a live demo, right? Where I drive people to a Zoom event, they come and get to see me, and then they can book an appointment from the Zoom event. Now I'm actually doing digital prospecting. And guess what? The people that don't show up to the event that register, but they don't attend, guess who the sales team calls? Those people. Because they know who Martina is now. They know who Scott is now. So they're much more likely to actually engage through a text or a phone call.
Do you find that works well, obviously if you're doing it, but you find that works well, the live demos?
Here's the thing. Think of it like this. It's so much less committal because you're like, hey, I'm going to have 50 business owners on a live event. I'm going to show you what we do. If you like what you see, book a call with me. So it's much easier for your prospector to call and say, hey, you're not ready to book an appointment? That's okay. Come to this event with me and Martina, and you're going to get to see what we're all about, and you'll have an opportunity to book a call from there. It's just a much smarter way to do business than just saying, hey, I'm just going to call, text, and send LinkedIn messages, right? LinkedIn is another one. Yes, it can work, but if that's all you're doing, you're only getting a percentage of the opportunities that are out there.
Yeah, all of those are just like, everything's really saturated. So you have to just do a little bit everywhere and just...
A little bit of everything.
And contact people how they want to be contacted, right? Like there's people that I'll respond to a text. If you email me, I might not see it. If you are on my LinkedIn, maybe it'll grab my attention, and then, vice versa, all that.
And if you can video text, right? Like doing, hey, what's up? I just wanted to say hi, and you pop it over in a text. It's much more personalized. Mm-hmm. They feel much better about it. So once you have a connection with somebody, or if you follow the TCPA guidelines, you get them to opt in through social media. Now you can start doing things like video text to keep in front of them. And nowadays, more than ever, the fortune's in the follow-up. You have to be really good at following up with people. We used to interview and say, can you one call close? And that was like the most important thing. You had to be able to one call close. That is much smaller percentage of sales nowadays. You have to be able to nurture people and not come across as that used car salesman that needs the deal today.
I miss the one call close.
I do too.
There's no high like a one call close.
It's not impossible. It's just less than it used to be.
Well, I was going to say, so for me, usually I was 80-20. 80% one call close, 20% follow up. Now I'm probably 60, 40, 50, 50, right? And that's 22 years of experience. So I know how to speak to people. And if they've already seen me on a video or they went to my live event, I'm much more likely to get a one call close because technically it's not the first time they're meeting me now.
Right. They're familiar with you. So they're less.
That's correct.
Yeah. I mean, you have to just find some way to stand out and like introduce yourself without introducing yourself. So
That's correct.
You have people that, are going to say, oh yeah, I remember that guy and talk to you.
Absolutely.
How do you balance numbers pressure, which we used to have a lot of numbers pressure?
A lot. Yes.
You mean from like, you have goals that you have to hit?
Yeah. So how do you balance the pressure of we have to hit this number with maybe you have 10 salespeople and 4 or 5 of them crack under pressure. They need a different type of motivation.
Correct. It's again, knowing your team. And I would also say this, you never let them see you pressured. You can never be phased as a leader, right? It doesn't matter if, oh my God, there was times 20 years ago that Steve, a mentor of mine, walked up to me and said, Scott, if we don't get 15,000 cash this week, we can't pay payroll. But I can't go around to the sales team and say, guys, if we don't bring in this much money, I can't pay
You're not
you
getting
this week."
paid.
Right? So you have to immediately be able to take the pressure in, say, okay, come up with a game plan, and then just go out and execute it at a very high level and let what happens. But if you start changing what you're doing because of a goal and you start panicking as the leader, I like to call it panicking, right? You're knee jerking. Oh my God, let's change this. We're going to change this. Usually your sales team will not respond to that. You go in with immediate confidence. Like I always looked at it like this. Okay, cool. That's what I got to hit. I'm going to blow it out of the water. Watch. And that was my attitude. And then the team would just follow me. And they also, if you're a really good leader that shows them you care, they want to hit the goal, not just for themselves. They want to hit it for you.
Yeah.
Right. And that's when you have a special team, when everybody can come together and say, if you ladies remember, we had a big goal.
$1 million month.
$1 million month, right? And I think the team was happier than our CEO and I was. Like, I mean, there's still videos out there of the team like celebrating. They were so excited. So, and also to have something, give them a reward, right? So some people like free time. So I do certain things like, hey guys, we hit the goal Friday, 12 o'clock, you're done and you're going to be paid. Right? You're done. You like free time? Good. Let's give you some free time. I have others that are like, Scott, I want to sit and make as much money as I can. Okay, great. You know what? I'm going to give you X amount of commission if you hit this goal over what you would have already made yourself. So you got to find individual ways to motivate your team members and then make sure everybody's rallying as a team to go after the big number.
What are you laughing at over there?
Thinking about summer Fridays.
Yeah, they're a double-edged sword. We try to do summer
Yeah.
Fridays because we're trying to combat that everybody wants to work remote.
Yeah.
And then it's like we're getting into our busy season. We still have 1 or 2 summer Fridays left. And everyone's like, oh,
I have no time to do my work.
I have no time to do anything. And it's like, well, we're trying to give you 8 extra hours free. So you're not trying to bitch and complain about working from home. But do you see why we work 5 days a week now, pretty much?
Yes.
So, yeah. But yeah, I mean, you're talking about just like an incentive here and there to motivate.
You find incentives. And we used to do a lot of things. Remember, we went on a casino trip where everybody got cash given to them. So it's also think outside the box.
That
right?
was one of the most fun things about working together. You were always coming up with different types of contests and scenarios, and it's this group against that group, and there's going to be this reward, and it made it so much fun.
We did a fantasy draft. Remember, it was the sales draft.
Oh, yeah. We had arm wrestling for the first pick, right? There's a video of it, right? And then if you remember, Carla, we used to always have the boards.
Yeah.
So we had the big whiteboards.
You still have those, don't you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But I think back then it was there was a new contest every month, right? And it incentivized people. And then we wouldn't put necessarily the top person against the new people. New people would battle new people. So we'd have mini contests within the team.
And there was also a couple people on the team that just significantly outperformed the other people. So we'd never put the middle of the pack against the top of the pack because they're immediately defeated by it.
And Martina wants me to say this. Yeah, she was one of those ones, right?
saying.
But yeah, I mean, Martina was in a different contest because she was at a different level, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there was other individuals that was the same thing. So you have to, again, that's where it's not, I hate to use the word cattle calling so much, but that's the mistake I see so many leaders make is they try to treat everybody on the team the same and not, we built silos, right? Like we had little groups that would compete with each other and keep each other on their toes, right? So, and nobody wants to lose when you're in a competitive sales team. So that would be one thing I didn't talk about a lot. Competition.
Let's talk about it.
So important, right? It's so important because you have to have, nobody wants to be second when it comes to sales teams. So little thing I learned from a mentor, every single day we'd walk in, okay, and he'd have 1 through 10. I think we had 10 sales reps on the board. You did not want to be number 10. You did not want to be number 8. You wanted to be in the top 3. And then it got so competitive that it was like, okay, well, if you're number 1 for the week, you're going to get this. And then they started doing things like letting us go home early, doing those types of things, which in our 20s, we're like, oh, it's a summer day and I get to leave at 2 o'clock. Great. Yeah, I'm going to go hit my goal by 2 and I'm out of here. Right. So I think competition is so underrated because people are soft nowadays a little bit. Like, well, he's being treated differently or she's being treated differently. You can't have those types of people on your team. You have to, I call them pigeons, get them out, right? Eagles fly with eagles. So if you truly want a team that's full of eagles that fly high, the pigeons will bring them down. You have, and if you have the right team, the eagles will eliminate the pigeons on their own, right? Because the pigeons don't want to be around people that are super competitive. So don't stop people from doing that. Let them and encourage it. And I think you see people strive.
So that actually kind of brings up a good point. How do you, I remember having a lot of middle of the pack people, and I would say it's probably standard across any team is that you're going to have 10 to maybe 20% is like excellent.
Yes.
And then you have a big middle ground and then you have your pigeons.
Yes.
How do you keep the middle ground motivated when there's people above them that they know they're never going to catch? Like not just in competition, but in general, like a salesperson or really any person's going to get very defeated being beat every single time.
Yes.
Especially if there's no real reason why.
Yes.
So how do you manage that middle pack?
It's very difficult. And if I could go back years, one of the things I would have done is...
Coming up next time on the Uptown Girls podcast. There's been so many times when I'll say something and one of the girls is like, what, are you sure? Because you sounded so confident, but I'm pretty sure that's wrong. And I'm like, I don't know. Is it?
Yeah.